Mixed cannulae, expanding performance standards. High-performance cannulae for direct and femoral cannulation in minimally invasive cardiac surgery. LivaNova's complete range of mixed dedicated products allow easy and reproducible procedures. The portfolio includes the sutureless aortic valve Perfusion, Memo 4D for mitral valve repair, the HeartLink system for assisting the perfusionist in applying goal-directed perfusion therapy, and a broad choice of high-performance dedicated cannulae. LivaNova's range of cannulae suit every cannulation technique for minimally invasive cardiac surgery. Venous and arterial femoral cannulation can be performed using the WRAP venous cannula and the EasyFlow Duo. For arterial direct and venous femoral cannulation, the EasyFlow aortic cannula and the WRAP are available. For venous femoral access, the LivaNova WRAP cannula features a dual-stage configuration for optimal drainage of the inferior and superior vena cava without interfering with the right atrium. The high-flow dynamics of WRAP improves the capability of drainage with a low pressure drop. An optional Sellinger dilator kit is available to perform percutaneous insertion. The LivaNova EasyFlow Duo cannula is designed for a safe and smooth femoral arterial cannulation. Its conical dispersion tip design allows a more gentle flow in the femoral artery, and its red cap avoids blood backflow during obturator removal. A dilator kit for percutaneous insertion is also included with the cannula. EasyFlow cannulae are designed for safe, reproducible, direct aortic cannulation and include a malleable stylet to aid cannulation insertion, facilitating bloodless introduction into the aortic arch, as well as a special conical dispersion tip for a more gentle flow in the vessel to reduce shear stress.
The point-of-care program at Huntsville Hospital is approaching its 20-year anniversary. As we began to grow as a hospital and provide more complex services to our community, the need for point-of-care testing became very clear in our organization. Many of our departments consider the EPOC device to be crucial to their ability to quickly move their patients from entry to the hospital to procedural room. It helps them monitor the patient's status during their procedures and post-procedure, so it's very integrated into our entire continuum of patient care. If you have any patient population where blood management is crucial, then a point-of-care device is very useful in those types of settings. It can provide a quick result on a very small amount of blood, and that is really important in some of our patient population.
We are starting a new process where we're going to screen our patients on the floor for sepsis. The patient can look and actually feel okay. They will show us signs and symptoms of sepsis. So what we do when they show these signs, we get a lactate level.
Lactic acid is a product of the sepsis cascade. So with sepsis, the inflammatory light switch goes on, the cascade starts churning, and unfortunately, once it starts going, we have to stop it. It will not stop on its own. The faster the lab draw, the faster the lab results, the faster you can act on it.
The process in the lab is what the process is. It just takes a certain amount of time for the instruments to run those tests.
I mean, we're talking 30 minutes even on a stat because that's the process. This is just how long it takes. There's not really anything you can do about that. For every hour you wait to give an antibiotic, the mortality for that patient increases 8%. So now that we have the handheld device, the nurse can get those results within a few minutes, and we know how to treat that patient. If a patient is going into septic shock, we do not have minutes to spare. We have got to get it done quickly. So when you get the little beep from the EPOC that says your results are in, you go with it. You don't even think twice about it. You're like, this is good. This is what I'm going to do for this patient. The next steps are clear.
I think our mortality on the initial floors dropped by almost 50% in the first 3 to 6 months. At this point, we're about hospital-wide. I think we'll be hospital-wide another 2 to 4 months. So this has become a huge program within our system.
Without the EPOC device, it would really be hard for us to get everything done in the timely manner. So it's really helped us to get our program going.
I mean, whether you're a surgeon, whether you're a medicine doctor, whether you're a dermatologist, you want to be able to do things in a timely fashion so that you can be most effective.
This really makes a difference in patient outcomes.
Like all perfusion professionals today, we are busy and frequently short-staffed. Does taking time off for a conference create a burden for your teammates? Has reimbursement for your continuing education dropped? Have you priced the cost of going to a meeting lately? Registration fees, airfare, transportation and parking, hotel, and meals out? This totals up to having an out-of-pocket expense of over $2,500. And then you hope the content is good. Perfusion Education has heard your concerns. They have a simple and seamless system that works on any platform, computer, tablet, or even your phone. You can chat during the program or even phone in and be live on the air. The content, second to none. Perfusion Education is by perfusionists and for perfusionists. Create a free account and check us out today.
And welcome everyone to, what number is this? 35. 35. 35, day one. Great to see all of you this afternoon. I'm going to go through the opening remarks very quickly. Want to thank our sponsors, of course, LivaNova and Siemens Healthineers. That's kind of like the Mouseketeers, I guess, the Healthineers. Okay, it's kind of an interesting twist. Check them out. We appreciate their support of these programs. Take a look at our social media. We're on all of them. Make sure you like, follow, share on the Facebook, Twitter, and the LinkedIn. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up, please, if you don't mind. And also make sure you hit the notifications button. Check out our website, perfusioneducation.com. You can learn all about all of the educational programs that we have. And it's perfusioneducation.com. You see it down there. And also, if you'd like to join our faculty, you're welcome to send us an email. You can find our contact there in that website and send it to us. You can also check out our faculty that we currently have, which I'll be introducing to in just a minute. We also have a call-in number. When you see this symbol, it means the phone lines are open. If you want to call in and ask a question, make a comment, be a part of the discussion, please feel free to do so. Just wait until you see that thing pop up there. Okay, so from there, I'm going to go right into this program. This program we're doing because I think a lot of people, it's COVID. Yeah. And although that is the hot topic of the day, I think that it's just, that's all that's being done. But there's a whole world, a whole life that's happening all around us simultaneously to this happening. So this program is not about COVID at all, but it's about things that are being impacted by what COVID has caused us as a society to do. And for that, we're going to have Tracy Nicole Howarth, who is a licensed baccalaureate social worker, earning her degree at the University of Texas in Austin in 1989, just the other day. She began her career with the Texas Department of Protective and Regulatory Services as a child abuse investigator. and she then transferred to an inpatient psychiatric center working with children and youth with severe mental health issues. And although you are retired, officially, I guess, in 2016, so it's been a couple of years.
Correct.
You're still very active in your field. I know you give a lot of presentations in schools. This is a huge problem. And how this actually evolved in terms of this topic is that as healthcare professionals, and this is really, it's for everyone, and I know you're going to articulate that as well, but it's for everyone. But as healthcare professionals, especially in light of the meeting we just recently had with women in perfusion, if you remember that, your children are home. But even if you were at home, it has become, I've just been really, it's frightening, and Tracy again will get into that, but that's sort of the twist to this conversation today, is at-risk behaviors and how easy it is for us to, even in plain sight, lose sight of what our children are doing. But when you're a healthcare professional and you're gone a lot of the day, and then in the middle of the night, and you may be a single parent, and you're on call, and you got a type 1 dissection, and you're going to be there for a while. We love our children, we want to trust our children, but there are some real perils out there. So that's number one. And then also sitting with me today is, of course, Tammy Sparacino. We all know Tammy from multiple programs, Texas Heart Institute graduate, and you've got nearly 17 years. It says nearly 17 years of experience. I don't hardly believe that. I mean, you're so good, I would think it'd be 37, but you really look like you only have 7 years of experience. And you're currently working with us, Houston Extracorporeal Technologies. How's that? Is that going good?
It's going good.
Going good? Good. And as a clinical perfusionist, but you're also sort of, in a role of, you take over for Stephanie, who's the manager. You do the scheduling now. So you're sort of evolving into more and more administrative responsibilities, but clinically you are incredible and doing incredible. You've got a great reputation. We appreciate you so very much. You have a lot of interest in perfusion education, thank God, or you'd have to listen to me by myself all the time. So you really do enjoy education, but you're also very passionate about ECMO management, and I call it transfusion management. It says on your bio, blood conservation, but I always viewed conservation as we're conserving something that someone might need. I've always sort of tried to say it's transfusion management. So
Smart. Transfusions.
That's kind of my thought about it. Okay, so with that said, we're going to jump right in. I think we're going to do Tracy's talk first, and then following Tracy will be Tammy. Or there'll be a discussion, I think, after your talk, and then Tammy, and a discussion after that, and then we can just sort of have a free-flowing discussion, and hopefully some people will call in or chat some questions. So,
Absolutely.
All right.
Professor Howitt, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Okay, as you can tell, the topics I'm going to be addressing today, internet and gaming safety, human trafficking awareness, they're all very heavy, they're very dark, and they are very timely with COVID going on, with everybody online all day, every day. And I know that a lot of this is going to be scary. It'll make your skin crawl, make your stomach sick. But my goal is to also give you some takeaway tips to take home with you to be able to keep calm and stay safe online. Easier said than done with these topics. Over the last weeks, I've had conversations with a really good friend of mine who I'm very proud to call a colleague. His name is Gary Spurger. And Gary really wanted to be here today, but he is being pulled in 30 million directions right now. He is the high-tech crimes manager for the Harris County Sheriff's Department. He is also over their audio and imaging forensic labs, as well as their undercover investigative teams. So I've had conversations with him, and there will be some quotes from him scattered throughout this presentation. There was a show that the Dr. Oz show actually shadowed the high-tech crimes division in Harris County and went on a bust. So there are some quotes from that particular show, if you guys want to Google that show and watch it later on. Having said that, keeping calm, we want to remind you guys as professionals
Parents, educators, medical staff, community members, family members, you guys are our first line of defense when we are trying to find these perpetrators and protect our children. So basically, Gary and I want to echo, if you see something, say something. If you have a question, ask it. Internet crimes against children. When I give this presentation live, the audience usually does not know that there is actually an entire division in law enforcement that specializes in working to protect our kids from predators online. ICAC is a national network of 61 coordinated task force and 4,500 federal, state, local officers, as well as prosecutors. And it was created for the sole purpose of working with law enforcement who are protecting our kids from predators online. The average age of a child approached by a perpetrator online is between 12 and 15. Unfortunately, with technology getting younger and younger and our kids getting more tech savvy, that age is probably more realistically around 10. 1 in 7 youth have received an unwanted sexual solicitation online. What that means is someone that reaches out to your kid either through a game or a chat room or a website, and they ask for a nude picture or an inappropriate sexually explicit video of them. That in Texas, or nationally, is called sextortion, and that is a state jail felony in Texas. So if your kids report this, you report it. 1 in 3 have experienced unwanted sexual exposure online. This can happen in a couple of different ways. We've all been aware of the Zoom bombing incidents that have happened recently, where people have gone into Zoom conferences and exposed themselves. Zoom has been real active. We now have to use passwords, but that is one way, is if your child is actually sees sexual exposure online. Another one, I wanted to give you this example. Your child may be honestly doing something legit online, but if they accidentally click on the wrong tab, and I've put this one in here, whitehouse.com. It's an old one, but it drives the point home. This website gave law enforcement and parents and educators fits back in the 90s. Most kids have had to do some sort of an election project or a White House project, and Tammy and I were talking before the broadcast, it's probably young junior high when they're doing this. Whitehouse.com, if your child accidentally typed this link in, the real White House link is whitehouse.gov. Whitehouse.com was a very graphic, in-your-face porn site. So if your child were to click on this on accident and they're young and they see this and they don't feel that they can come and talk to you or talk to another adult, they're going to have all these images in their head that they're not able to process mentally or emotionally. And if they can't talk to you, what they're going to do, curiosity is going to win. Am I right? They're going to win, and then they're going to go back and keep looking at it, trying to figure it out on their own. That can cause a lot of damage for kids in relationship, expectations, intimacy, lots of things down the line. 1 in 11 youth have experienced online harassments or threats, and those can be extremely serious. Threatening to kill a pet or hurt a family member. If if they have an image of your child and your child refuses to send another one, they'll be threatened. Chat rooms, message rooms, gaming sites, and other teenagers themselves are actually acting as human trafficking, prostitution, and child pornography recruiters at this time. So be aware of who your kids are talking to. Oop. Sorry. This is Gary from that Dr. Oz show I was telling you about. This is a quote that just drives it all home. Our function is to hunt down individuals who are hunting our children. They're hunting people who are hunting our kids. They're looking for individuals who are specifically sharing pornography and images of our kids online with the sole purpose of becoming sexual with that child. Gary recently said that he arrested, or his team did, a man with 29 million images of child sexual abuse on his computer. And he broke that down, kind of gave us a parameter that's 29 million images of children in his 650 square foot apartment, which to me is just completely disturbing. Since COVID-19 forced the stay at home, he said that the online distribution in child porn has spiked substantially. And he estimates that there's been about a 20 to 25% uptick in reports to the cyber tip line in just the last few weeks. This is that same Dr. Oz show declaring war on pedophiles. And I really want you guys to notice the difference between the reports of child sexual abuse imagery shared in 1998. There were 4,000 reports. In 2018, there were 18.4 million reports. Guys, that's a 4,000% increase in the images shared of children online. And a disturbing statistic, I'll just throw that out there and let it simmer with you guys because it really isn't anything to discuss. Repeated studies show that about 69% of those child sexual images are of children between the ages of birth to 10. Carly Eust is with the Child Rescue Coalition. She is a really great resource, but these are some statistics that she has. She's estimating about 1,000 images of child sex abuse are shared a minute. And I think the two big things on this slide, 85% of online offenders will become hands-on abusers. What that means is when they're no longer getting what they need from viewing simple images, they will go after your kids to meet them in person and abuse them. When we say that they can victimize between 50 and 150 children in the course of a lifetime, the way I explain that is think of a deep sea fisherman. He's got multiple fishing lines in the water at the same time, and he's going to see who bites. Predators do the same thing. They're going to have multiple kids in their vision at the same time, and if they all bite, they're going to keep them on the line. So that's how they victimize children, so many children being one person. Live streaming sex abuse is very common, and unfortunately it's extremely difficult to track because the offenders bounce from server to server, makes it hard to find them. These are common sense, a lot of them, but they are very important. I wanted to give you guys these tips that your child may be having some problems online. If you are noticing that they are spending increasing amounts of time online, and that's not what's going on now with school or with their normal social media time or their normal gaming that you allow, if it's really hidden and if they get really secretive about their use of technology, apps, we're going to go over apps here in a little bit. If they're shutting the door and hiding what they've got on the screen and they're slamming their computer down or clicking their screen to dark on their phone, that's a huge red flag. If they can't talk to you openly about what they're looking at, that's a big one. But this is a very important. If your child becomes really agitated or angry with you, if you ask who they're talking to, or if they answer their phone and they're desperate to take that phone call and they have to go take it in private and go outside, if they're developing a pattern of leaving home with no explanation to take calls or return texts, that's a big red flag. Vague talk of new friends. Every kid does this, but if you're noticing that all of a sudden, Bob's cool. I like Bob. Bob's a cool dude. Where does Bob go to school? I don't know. What's Bob's last name? I don't know. Bob's just cool. If they don't know anything more than very little information, that's a big red flag that somebody may be trying to mess with them. David, this one, you got it? We had a little problem. Thank you. This is actually Julie in this video. I want you to listen to her voice. She is actually a victim. This is her voice and her story that was made with the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And I think it's important for you to hear the perspective of a child.
The internet, it's a tool that has to be used properly. It's like a knife. I mean, it's very helpful, but it can also cut you. My name is Julie. When I was 13, I started talking to Tom. He didn't act or even sound like a 56-year-old man, so he was different on the computer. I knew that I wasn't supposed to be talking to him, but I did it out of a retaliation against my parents. It felt nice to have somebody who wasn't always trying to tell you what to do. It started to get more like a relationship where it went from just friends to best friends, more personal relationship than best friends. I would instant message him between 3 and 6 hours a day. I was really upset whenever I couldn't get on the internet because I knew that he would be like, "What were you doing?" And he emailed me like 10 times wondering where I was at. Then you feel like extremely bad about it. It was an opportunity for him to manipulate more. I trusted him more than anybody else. He mentioned, wouldn't it be nice if we were together all the time? And then the thought came up of running away. The night I left, I kissed all my brothers goodnight, and he was in his truck, and we just...
Whoops.
Uh-oh. What happened?
Uh-oh. Lost audio? Okay.
Did everybody lose audio? No, it's still on.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
All right, we can.
Yeah.
Move
Can you fix it? Can you go back, rewind it, fix it?
If you can, it's okay.
Here, just hold on 1 second, guys. Just a short delay. We'll figure out what happened and we'll fix it. We're falling apart.
It's okay if you want me just to talk through it. I don't have a problem with that.
It was an opportunity for him to manipulate more. I trusted him more than anybody else. He mentioned, wouldn't it be nice if we were together all the time? And then the thought came up of running away. The night I left, I kissed all my brothers goodnight.
All right, well, there's something wrong
Something's
with it.
glitching,
Okay,
and that's
so let's
a
go ahead
YouTube.
and switch it and move it over to we'll just go back to Tracy, to her slides.
What ended
Sorry,
up happening
everybody.
in this one, I'm sorry about that. That's actually on YouTube if you want to Google Julie's journey. Yeah, thank you, yeah.
Sorry.
She ended up, when he went to prison, he ended up writing her a letter blaming her and bashing her and saying it was all her fault. And she, before they ran away, I don't know if you heard the part in there that she said that she got to the point where he was having her text with him and communicate with him between 3 and 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
And so they were on their way to Reno, and there was an Amber Alert out, and that is how they caught them. And he was sent to prison. But the threats and the letters that he would send her, and her little voice, it breaks my heart as a parent, but also as a professional for our kids, that she just sounds broken to me. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, she sounded emotionally distressed to me too. You know, I mean, there's obviously a lot of questions that I would have, but you know, how much time did he get?
25 years.
So not enough.
Right.
How
Not
was he
quite
able
enough.
to contact her?
That is one of the questions, is he mailed the letters, and I'm not certain how they got through.
How traumatizing.
Yes,
Yeah.
very,
Yeah,
very much
it's
so.
horrible.
Very much so.
You know, and she have good parents.
Yeah, she came from a good home, but she was at that rebellious teenager phase where she just, you know, he gave her attention, and she was in a vulnerable teenage place. And you heard her say, "I kissed my brothers goodbye." So there was love there. He got his hooks into her and groomed her to where he made her feel like he was the only thing that she needed, and had her isolate her family so that he could have her all to himself. Unfortunately, that's just one example.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, let's see. Whoop, now we're not clicking.
We're just falling apart. We got our own.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, these are actual case examples of internet crimes against children in action, and there are thousands of these, but these were some that I thought were pretty striking. Tommy Lee Jenkins thought he was talking to a 14-year-old girl named Kylie. And in the conversations with Kylie, it was made very clear that she was 14. Statements were made I'm only 14, but I drink. Does that bother you? I can't drive because I'm only 14. And he kept adding, oh no, that's cool. It's fine. I'll come get you. I'll come to you. If I had money, I'd send you a bus ticket. Kylie was an undercover cop. And so this man was so desperate to get to Kylie that he walked, he didn't have a car, there's a reason for that, from Indiana to Winnebago, Wisconsin. And he was so desperate not to lose Kylie along the way that he texted pictures of road signs and mile markers and street signs. So all the while, the police officers were able to track this guy. And he began making, conversation went real south, became very sexual, began making comments, I want to have 500 babies with you, one in the next year, making clear he wanted to have sex with this 14-year-old girl. So when they got to him, he was arrested. The reason Mr. Jenkins did not have a car was because he had already been in prison for first-degree sexual assault after inappropriately touching a 7- and an 8-year-old boy. So he was out of prison and then immediately went back to do this. Travion Shields, this guy is compliments of our very own Harris County. Thank you, Harris County officers. He was arrested on November 8th of 19, and he was going into social media sites that our teenagers use frequently for the specific purpose of finding a girl that he could take advantage of. He did finally hook up with a 15-year-old girl online and then groomed her to meet him in person. When he did meet her, he kidnapped her and held her captive for 11 weeks, drugged her and repeatedly raped her. And she was able to, thank you God, get to his phone when he wasn't looking and call for help. So she is receiving treatment, and he is now a resident of our Harris County Jail on first-degree felony kidnapping. Other charges are pending. This we can credit our very own Montgomery County Precinct 1, Texas undercover officers. Jimmy Ray Smith was in a chat room with who he thought was another perpetrator. Turned out it was an undercover officer. He began to brag about having photo evidence of his interactions with a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old little girl. When the officer engaged him and acted as if he was another perpetrator and interested in, hey man, you got to share this with me, hey man, I need to see it. This animal shared those images online with our undercover officer. We were then immediately able to dispatch officers to have him arrested, and he is in jail and will not get out. He is in jail on multiple different counts of child sexual assault, child endangerment, and he is also facing additional charges here in Texas. I'm not certain what those are. They haven't been released yet. I'm assuming it's channeling child pornography across state lines, possibly, or possession, maybe distribution, but Texas is tough on these guys, so he's got more charges coming. Any questions on internet crimes against kids before we move on?
I mean, yeah, I guess I do. You know, I'm sure that the audience and all of you have watched that Chris Hansen show, To Catch a Predator, and so forth. And I mean, that guy, Jimmy Ray, he at least appears to be relatively otherwise. He appears normal. Right. Okay. But I've seen some of the ones that I've seen, people appear to be seriously mentally challenged. I mean, in a lot of different ways, both in terms of maybe their mental stability, but also maybe their intellectual capacity as well. I've seen that at least on that program a few times. I don't know if you have that same experience.
I actually have never seen that program.
Never seen that program? Mm-hmm. It's an interesting program.
Coming from working in the field, I can tell you that there have been arrests from every walk of life. There have been
that's what I'm curious about.
There have been arrests of
percentage
CEOs. I don't know an exact percentage, but there's been CEOs, there's been priests, there's been teachers, there's been
someone's a rabbi.
Right.
We had someone come speak from the district attorney's office to one of my daughter's youth groups.
Right.
And there was the example they gave of a sting that occurred was a pilot. So a very successful, normal
commercial pilot.
And that case was very unique, and I think she probably shared with you it was unique in the fact that that pilot victimized children in multiple states.
Right, it was hard
So
to
you
trace.
know the story.
Yeah, I think it's probably pretty famous.
Yeah.
But they, shared all the details and how they, did all of these things. But it's to your point that sometimes they're completely clever.
Right.
I mean, he knew because he was a commercial pilot, he would have different areas
Yeah.
to be able to victimize people. It would be very difficult to track back to him. Yeah.
So it's every walk of life. I mean, there is no set
And
type, for lack of a better word.
Right.
Yeah.
And it can be a moment's decision by your child. Now, there's another story, and I can't remember if this was related to that one or it was a different sting operation, but it was, I think, a 14-year-old girl and had been having, sort of an online relationship with someone and had a bad day at her home, came from a very good home, and all aspects, had a great life, but they just knew exactly when to strike, said, I'll come pick you up.
Absolutely.
Right now, parents were home, and the only thing that had stopped it was she had a friend at school that thought something
was off.
And had mentioned to the parents, and she was almost abducted in her driveway in broad daylight just because she was going to go outside and meet him in the driveway. Then they went back to where he was going to take her, and it was basically some kind of torture place.
Right. Yeah, I
my
believe
God.
that. I believe that.
I mean, and that happens.
the
That
predator
happened here.
Yeah, it did. And the predators are very good at striking when kids are most vulnerable.
Right.
So they hit that, like you just said, that 1 weak moment where they're very easily swayed, and it's awful. It's an awful thing. So we're moving on to another happy topic. This is going to be human trafficking. A lot of this is specific to Texas. So I know, Joe, you were asking me when last time we talked about stats here in Texas and in Houston. So we've got some of those here for you.
Good.
Rebecca Carey is a good friend of mine and a colleague. I'm actually on the board of Hands of Justice, which is a nonprofit human trafficking awareness organization in Montgomery County. Becca is also a brave domestic sex trafficking overcomer. So she survived it and now is working with rescues and all that. Some of these slides are credit to her. I wish she could be here. She's so awesome. Every 30 seconds, someone becomes a slave. Every 30 seconds, someone is becoming a slave because human trafficking is modern day slavery.
United States or worldwide?
That's worldwide, but about 2 million of those are children. Between 20.9 and 45.8 million people are trafficked globally, and the reason for that discrepancy is because there's 3 types of trafficking. There's sexual, there's labor trafficking, and there's domestic servitude. And it depends on if you're totaling up all 3 areas of trafficking, or if you are looking at one specific, or you're looking at a specific day in a specific city in a specific part of the world. The 3 things that we have to prove human trafficking has happened is force, fraud, or coercion. One of those 3 things, if somebody is forced into it, if they're lied to and frauded into it, or if they're coerced into it. Those 3 things are critical in determining human trafficking. 600 to 800,000 people are trafficked over the international borders every single year.
They take them from here?
From
somewhere else?
other countries,
Oh,
bringing them here, or from here and taking them to other countries. So it works both ways. We are not immune. Average age is 15 years old, but unfortunately, just like in the internet crimes, it's getting younger and younger, probably closer to 11. 80% are women, and a lot of those women actually know their traffickers. It's a boyfriend, it's a family member, it's a friend who is trafficking them out because they themselves are being trafficked and their pimp has told them to recruit and traffic their friends. Men are trafficked as well. Boys are trafficked. This next one I always get just disgusted, when I say this one. 80% of the victims under 10 are sold by family members. The reason for that is they are in such a desperate situation. Either they have a debt that they can't pay off, or they themselves are victims of labor trafficking and they're not cutting it with their production, so they are forced to sell their child into trafficking. 75% of trafficked victims are advertised online. And I don't know if does anybody remember Backpage? Okay. We all did a super big happy dance back in 2018 because Backpage was a website that existed for the sole purpose of advertising online the buying and selling of sex. So the FBI in 2018 finally seized them and shut them down, and the founder was charged with 93 counts in a sealed indictment by the FBI. So unfortunately, there's one every minute stepping up to take Backpage's place. The one that comes to mind immediately is Ashley Madison. Ashley Madison is the website that their slogan is "Life is short, have an affair."
Yeah.
They wanted to advertise during the Super Bowl. They wanted to do a halftime ad during the Super Bowl, and Super Bowl shut them down and wouldn't let them. So they circumvented that by going and advertising their product in all of the print media in the town where the Super Bowl happened. So they're slick. And there's a high number of people in these websites that are trafficked. They're not all there voluntarily. Children at Risk did a study, over 200,000 unique ads marketing commercial sex in Houston, and that's in the last 8 months. That's a very recent study. We are second only behind Dallas in the state, so we've got some work to do. Harsh reality here. Human trafficking is a $150 billion annual profit. That means human slavery is a $150 billion profit industry. It's second largest only to the drug industry. We anticipate that the trafficking will soon be the first largest criminal industry because drug dealers are realizing you can only sell a gram of coke one time, but you can sell a person over and over and over and over again.
What would she be worth? Oh, sorry.
Way to get it light, Joe. Okay, moving on. Only 1% to 2% are rescued, and 2 of the 3 of those that are rescued never saw a resource or never knew that anybody was looking for them because the traffickers brainwashed them that nobody cares, that they're worthless. Most traffickers are never prosecuted, only 0.1%. Reason for that, either the victims are too traumatized to tell rescuers who they are, and they're terrified they're going to get killed or they're going to be found, or the trafficker is way up here and they've got
handlers.
They've got everybody else in front of them, and we never can get to them. So they're slick. All right, here's state of Texas. Houston is not first. We get that bad rap a lot, but we are not first, but we are in the top 5. And 1 out of 5 trafficked persons will pass through Texas at some point. Reason for that, we have a border. We have 2 international airports. We have an international shipping channel, and we have Interstate 10 that runs straight from Florida through Texas all the way to California. So it's real easy for people to get in and out of our state that are being trafficked. There are 400 illegal massage parlors that we know of functioning as brothels in Houston. To give you guys a perspective on that, that's more brothels in Houston than there are Starbucks. So kind of gives you a visual. About 6,000 to 9,000 nationwide. We do have law enforcement officers in every county working really, really hard, doing nothing but focusing on tips of massage parlors and other salons that are functioning as brothels. So our law enforcement officers are working their butts off to try to get this under control. 25% of all human trafficking in the whole U.S. occurs in Texas. There are about 313,000 victims in Texas. A lot of those are kids. This stat always surprises my audience. Most children who are being trafficked continue to do their normal activities. They continue to go to school, they continue to go to church, they continue to do cheerleading, they continue to play football. Any idea why?
I don't.
I'm guessing their handlers don't want to draw attention to them.
Yeah. They don't want anybody to notice anything's different. So that's where friends and family that are very close to them have to pay very close attention to very drastic shifts in behavior or attitude or the way they dress or their mood. their eye contact. But you're exactly right. They don't, the pimps and the johns don't want them to stand out. So this is disturbing to those not in the field. There's been this is a 2017-18 slide, 25% increase in human trafficking cases in that year. The blue dots show new. Yes, that's awful. But to those of us in the field working on this, what that tells us is that we are getting better at identifying hotspots and identifying places where trafficking is occurring so that we can get law enforcement officers, prosecutors, and resources into those areas.
So that's why they're going to new areas? Is that the point?
Because we're finding them, which is great. So that's a positive. And again, this is kind of another unseen casualty behind this whole COVID thing is people that are being trafficked, resources are completely diverted right now from what we normally do. There's no shelters. Task forces aren't able to go in and do busts. So people who are being trafficked are truly stuck. And
because they don't care about them. They're not worried about whether they're going to get COVID or not.
No. And
the traffickers.
The traffickers.
Right.
They're even more isolated. And for people that have been rescued, this is re-traumatizing them because now they're forced in a situation where they're stuck again and they can't get out. So there's recurring trauma. And so I just wanted to kind of bring that to everybody's attention. Oh, this is so new and I'm so thrilled about this. This has been in the works since 2015. Houston passed this ordinance last week.
Yeah, I just read this.
Isn't it awesome? I know. Hotels and motels must train their employees to spot trafficking and report it. And they actually put a clause in there that there can be no repercussions if in good faith a hotel employee reports what they suspect is trafficking. They're required to keep records of the trafficking and they have to produce them to the city within 3 days if they're requested. They must post indicators of trafficking, who to call, along with resources and numbers. That's twofold. That's not only for people in the hotels to have access to that information. That is hopefully if a person is being trafficked and they see that information
For the victims,
that they can actually call and get help. This took effect immediately when it was passed, but because of all this going on, they're giving the hotels until March 31st of 21 to get it done. But from all accounts and everything I've read, the Houston hotel and the hotel and lodging industry is behind this 100%, and they're hoping to make this a statewide ordinance. And you probably read this, but it was brilliant. One of the guys said, "Hey, how about we make it to where we can't rent rooms by the hour anymore? We at least make it 12 hours, I thought."
yeah.
There you go, So
Who rents rooms by the hour?
Well, I think,
a lot of hotels where trafficking occurs.
right,
Really?
and then they're gone.
That's common.
Very.
Then they're gone. You can't follow up on it because they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just one proposition. Anyway, we're making progress. I was thrilled to see that, and that's brand new. Who to call? Here's a resource list, and I do have this at the end. I have a whole resource list at the end, but this is specifically for trafficking. And I think it's cool to notice that the trafficking hotline is in 200 different languages, which is great. Also, that National Human Trafficking Hotline, they do have a website that has really great resources on it if anybody is concerned and not sure what to do. So just so you know that that's available for you. Any questions on trafficking before we move on?
I'll wait until we get into the discussion. I've got questions, but I'm going to wait.
All right, say what? Because apps, acronyms, and more. Because our kids talk in code. We all know they talk in code. And there are hundreds of acronyms and apps out there. I'm only going to share a few of the acronyms with you, but there's great resource lists for parents if you want to Google them. There's a simple one, 100 apps parents should be aware of, or 100 acronyms, parents should be aware of. And there's also lists with the apps, the popular apps. I'm only going to go through a few of them. When I was talking to Gary about this, I said, what apps do you want me to hit on? And he goes, all of them. And I just, we can't do that, so we pinpointed a few that are pretty critical. All right, to lighten it up a little bit, we all know what LOL is. But particular text example made me laugh. Mom texts kid, what does IDKLY and TTYL mean? Kid says, I don't know, love you, talk to you later. Mom says, okay, I'll ask your sister. She didn't even realize that her kid had already answered the question because IDK is I don't know, and so TTYL. So anyway, that just shows that parents and others are not necessarily aware. If I was in a live classroom, I would actually be passing out a quiz right now, but because I can't do that, I'm going to just post the quiz, and you can screenshot it, you can jot them down, you can do whatever before I give you the answers. Any guesses? I'm open for guesses. All right. I will give you 3 little tips here. POS is not piece of, paw is not a puppy's foot, and purr is not a misspell of a sound a kitten makes.
Person over shoulder is POS, right? Or something like that.
I'll give you the answers in
Parent.
just parent.
Yeah.
Yep, you got that one.
Okay.
Good job. And I'll give you the answers here in just a second. Okay. If anybody has needed a screenshot or wanted to take notes, that's there. Here's the answers.
Oh.
NIFOC is naked in front of the computer. POS is parents over shoulder. Good job. PAW is parents are watching. PIR is parents in room. These 3 are extremely important because if you see these on your kid's device or tablet or phone, that means they are alerting whoever they're talking to, you are in the room and don't contact me, because they don't want you to know what they're doing. IWSN is I want sex now, and that can be twofold. That can be I want you to do sexual acts online right now, or you need to get out of the house and meet me right now. LMOL as opposed to LMAO. This one is super scary for those of us in the field. That means let's meet offline. If you see that, if your kid has that on their phone or device anywhere, that's really scary because that means they've been groomed to a point where they're ready to meet someone in person. Age, sex, location's been around forever. It's much more commonly used now. MIRL, same thing, meet in real life. Clinton, my husband, when he saw this, he was like, you're making this up. And I'm like, no, that means get your pants off. AFK, AFC, it means away from keyboard, away from computer. Again, alerting whomever they're talking to, they're leaving their keyboard, so don't send anything that can't be seen. For your eyes only, sext me. Again, going back to that sextortion thing, this means exactly what it says. Send me a sexual picture or a video of you in some sort of sexually compromising position right now. If you saw that, you would think it was an it's. It's not. It's intense sex now. Again, that could mean get out of the house and meet me, or send me something now. And that's just a few. There are hundreds of these. Several are benign. There's many more that are not. Does this surprise you guys?
Yes.
I mean, no.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't maybe need to.
Yeah. Yeah. I highly encourage you guys, parents, educators, medical staff, because when you guys have kids in your emergency rooms that are injured and the injuries don't necessarily make sense, or they're traumatized and it doesn't make sense, if you see things like this, you might want to just kind of have a new awareness. Google it. There's, like I said, 100 acronyms parents need to be aware of. All right. Apps, and more apps. Okay, Joe, I know that you run your broadcast based on fact and truth only, so I'm going to give a little personal and professional disclaimer right here. For myself and for many others out there in this field, Kik is the devil, and Snapchat is the devil's sister. Kik, we thought it was gone. We were so thrilled. Back in 2018, Kik actually was threatened to be shut down because they were hit with a $100 million lawsuit by the SEC for fraudulent spending. And they actually announced that they were closing, and we were like, yay. Unfortunately, a company in California bought their assets, and Kik is up and running. You only have to be 13 to sign up for Kik, and it's free. You do not have to have a phone number. You only have to have a username and create a profile. That means your very young kids with no phones can sign up on a shared computer in your house or on their tablet or their gaming system for Kik. You can wander the web in Kik. You can reach adult websites. There are public and private chat rooms that you can gain access to. The big, huge, bad kicker about Kik, in this app there are no parental control settings. So even if you want to try to protect your child in this app, unless you have an overall parental control setting to monitor everything they're doing, Kik does not offer any in-app parental control settings. So it's very dangerous. There have been multiple reports of child sexual assault and child abuse that have stemmed in Kik. Snapchat. It is one of the most popular apps with our teens and our younger kids right now. Snapchat prides itself on its anonymity, and what that means is that when you snap pic, you send a snap from the sender to a person or a group of people, that picture has a lifespan of 10 seconds. Once it's opened, it is live for 10 seconds before it disappears into a bunch of different pixels. No, nothing is ever really lost online, but it takes even experts hours to rebuild an image in Snapchat once it pixelates.
Well, I remember when that first came up, and don't forgive me for interrupting.
No,
you,
you're
but
fine.
I thought that if you could freeze you could take a screenshot of your picture of your phone.
Yes, Joe, you're very smart. You can.
Yeah.
However, Snapchat has added a feature in app.
It tells you when someone
Tells you who and when someone screenshots your picture.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So teens don't want to rat each other out. So normally the reason you're going to screenshot is either somebody's going to blackmail you because of what they've seen, or because somebody's worried about you and they want to share what they've seen.
Yeah, but just because they know that you did it,
It's not popular with the kids.
It's still there.
It's still there,
Right. I think they put that into as a control, supposed to be a safety control, because when it first came out, my oldest was just at the age where, you're starting to give them a little bit of freedom for these kinds of things.
Right.
And she told me all about it. And, she said, that they can't save pictures and they can't do this. And I said, I guarantee you somebody can screenshot it. And then
Yeah.
she started telling me how people were sending things that maybe they would normally send because they don't think it can be saved. And I said,
Right.
I promise you, it
Right.
can be saved.
It
Someone
can be.
will figure it out.
It can be. So yeah, and
Yeah, you have it then. So even though I screenshotted it,
Yeah.
doesn't matter to me because I have something that I can hold over you. So what are you going to do?
but in kid code or in teen code, you just don't do it. You don't screenshot your stuff, your friend's stuff. It's just not. It's not cool. It's not the
Yeah.
cool thing to do. The other thing about Snap is that there is an in-app option that allows you to share your location with your friends. And when I'm talking, and if you enable that, it pinpoints you down to an icon on a map. So people know exactly where you are when you took that Snap picture. And if you don't think the predators are in this site, there have been multiple cases of exploitation that have started in Snapchat as well. TikTok. This one is super popular right now. It's a video snippet app that have really cool graphics and music and I've seen some hysterical TikToks, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, there are really some funny TikToks out there. But what people are not aware of is from the second you install TikTok on your device, it tracks your location. Even if you put your account to private, your location is tracked, your profile and whatever you put in your profile, your username and your pictures are made public. So if you have a young child, you only have to be 13 to sign up for Kik, 13 to sign up for Snapchat, and 13 to sign up for TikTok. So if you've got a young kiddo who doesn't think, if they think, my account's private, no one can see this, and they've put their real age and their real address and their real phone number, even though your account's private, it's still out there. The only thing private is the videos you share. So a lot of people don't know that about TikTok. There is also a feature in TikTok that is a duet app. And if you don't know to go into the app and set it to off or friends only, then someone from Australia could want to hook up with you and make a duet video and then encourage you to get into a chat. If you link your Instagram or your YouTube usernames or anything like that with TikTok, the app itself then gets into your contacts. So bark.us has a really good step-by-step parent guidance thing on TikTok. And that's just one, but just to let you know. DuckDuckGo. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck and looks like a duck, in this case, it is absolutely not a duck. This app is giving parents and schools all over the place absolute fits. This app doesn't use cookies. It doesn't track where you go. It doesn't track what you look at, and it doesn't even track your IPC address. So if you're in a school, schools are having to have their technology departments go in and develop ways to block this app, because kids were surfing their video games and all sorts of stuff at school, and without having an IPC address to track it, they couldn't figure out who's doing it.
So it works like a web browser?
It is a web browser, but there's no way to protect or restrict where your kids are going online. That's the problem. Tinder is a dating app. Most of y'all have heard of it. There's hundreds of them out there. There's Grindr, there's Plenty of Fish. Tinder seems to be pretty popular with our younger kids right now. It is an 18 and up, but it's extremely easy to act like you're 18, because it's one of those scroll birth dates where you just scroll to the number of the day and month and the year, and if you can do math and you're curious enough and you want to get in there, you can be 18. The bottom one, Gary asked me to mention, this one is, there's the high-tech crimes and internet crimes are starting to see this app. This is called RenRen. This is actually kind of the Chinese Facebook. There's about 150 million users worldwide, and Houston being very multicultural, our high-tech crimes is starting to see this app pop up in our Asian communities quite a bit. So if you see it, I just wanted to make you aware of what it is. Bottom three, any idea what are those?
Wow.
I'm assuming they're not calculators.
That's what I'm assuming as well.
They're not calculators. They do not do
so
math.
I got the question right.
You got the question right. Those apps are also the devil. They are hiding apps. They do not do math. If you see these apps on your child's phone, you have a problem. What those apps are for is for your child to be able to hide pictures and chats and videos and apps behind that. So if you're doing your due diligence and you're scrolling through and you're looking to see, is there a kick on my kid's phone, whatever, and you don't see it and you're like, oh, thank God. But you see that, they're hiding stuff.
So it's a folder.
Does it require a password to get
The
in?
one on the left is a fingerprint, and the one on the bottom right does require a password. You can see the lock.
Yeah.
The middle one is usually throws people because it does look like a calculator.
Yeah.
So just to make you guys aware that that's out there. Any questions?
No.
And again, Google apps parents need to be aware of, and it'll give you an education on that. Moving on to gaming. Gaming is a multi-billion-dollar industry, by the way. Anybody know what this is?
Not from that.
A black hole.
It is a black hole. Very good, Joe. You're on a roll today. You're doing good. I put this in here. This is the night, this was a crisis in the gaming world.
Oh, I know when this happened.
Yeah! Fortnite disappeared into a black hole and fans were freaking out. Fans literally stared at the screen for hours like this, waiting for it to come back. And I put the number of people that watched it live, because the number of people that watched it live totals more than the city of Houston, city of Dallas, and city of San Antonio populations combined. So that's how many people were watching this one event in the gaming world at one time. So
Okay, what was the event?
the game ended.
Yeah.
It was a crisis, Joe.
The game ended.
It ended and they kept waiting. No, come back.
What do you mean the game ended?
It was the end of the battle in Fortnite. And it was a catastrophe
So
for
in other
many.
words, like the program ended, like
Yep.
it was the end of the
Yep.
series. Okay.
Yeah.
What, y'all are laughing at me over there? Why are you laughing? Look, I'm a little behind the times. I'm trying to catch up. Okay.
It's okay, not everybody games, but I just wanted to show you how many people were in this game at this one time. We need to talk. Oh boy. Okay, this again encourages my parents and my educators and my medical staff in the community. Don't be afraid to have difficult conversations with your kids. No matter how awkward they may feel, please don't be afraid to have difficult conversations with your kids. Be app aware. I've given you some examples of that. You're not spying if you install parental gaming controls. Every game has built-in control, safety controls, and I really encourage you to use them. As many as 100 people at a time can be playing in one multiplayer game. A lot of people don't know that, because when you say, your kid says, I'm playing with my friends, there really can be 100 people in that game at one time. Many games are very sexualized and violent, and they're marketed to much younger audiences. If there's 100 people in that game, your kids really don't know who they're talking to. Double chatting. This is a huge, huge tool that perpetrators use in gaming. If you have a kid in a game and you've got a person over here that says, dude, that was an awesome shot, you killed it, that was awesome. Somebody over here says, what are you talking about? They suck. They didn't do that. That was awful. Person over here keeps complimenting, person over here keeps bashing. Which one is your kid gonna side with? The one complimenting. So then the one complimenting says, hey, you know, let's get out of this room and I'll private message me and I'll give you the key, the code to get into the, or the trick to get into the next level of the game. And we'll leave this other person over here. So what that person has effectively done is gotten your child to trust them into a private chat room with them and isolated. In reality, those two people are the same person. They're the perpetrator. They're the same person acting. So those are huge tricks. The younger the gaming audience, the greater the predators are going to be there. Again, if you accidentally click the wrong tab, we've talked about that in internet, but in the gaming world, it can be horrific. Unfortunately, I mentioned the gaming industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the pornography industry has picked up on that. Joe, I can't wait to see your face. There are multiple porn videos and interactive sites based on gaming characters. Yes, they're animated, and they're based on gaming characters. The one I'm going to show you is called Bowsette. It's kind of a morph character. If you Google Bowsette Nintendo, because it's like one of the Mario Kart series, Nintendo is quick to say that this is not a character in one of our games. It's not a character. Fans have wanted it to be, but it's not. But if you Google just plain old Bowsette, the likelihood is it's going to come up as porn. Pornhub, one of the many porn industries out there that are free for people to browse and surf, including your kids if they find it, bragged on this, that in 2018 in their year in review, Bowsette had over almost 35 million searches. This is animated gaming pornography. So if your kid clicks the wrong tab, they need to know that they can come and talk to you. Twoplayergames.org, this is just one example. I'm not bashing on this company, but I just wanted to show you how it can look so innocent. I kind of honed in on the one in the middle. I don't know if you can see it, the Get on Top one that kind of looks like little people, like Atari people.
Yeah.
So I got real curious. Okay, that doesn't sound real innocent. What is it? It's an extremely stormy, great two-player game. It's a wrestling game which you can get on top of your, and they specifically parentheses, girlfriend by punching, kicking, jumping. So it's a violent game. It encourages violence. What really bothered me, if you look towards the right, if you look at the icons on the right, you see Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto is rated M for mature, and we're going to dissect that god-awful game here in a little bit. You see Minecraft, which is very, very popular with kids, and it's got a huge, there's been a lot of predators that have been getting into Minecraft. And then you see this creepy looking little teddy bear. His name is Freddy. You know about Freddy? Yeah, Freddy's creepy. Five Nights at Freddy's is a downloadable survival horror game. Basically, your kid goes into what looks like a haunted Chuck E. Cheese pizza place, and these characters, there's a pig, there's a bear, there's Freddy, there's all these characters that come out and they try to kill your kid for 5 nights in a row, and it's your job to stay alive from these creepy characters.
And it was around second grade that my son's friends were starting to tell him about this.
Is that like Granny and Granny and the Evil Nun and that kind of thing? That game, like on your phone?
I don't know what that is.
I don't know that
this is extremely graphic and scary.
Well, that's not. I mean, grandma or grandpa just whacks you with a crowbar.
No, this is
the screen goes.
This is bad.
Blank.
No, but you can see the average age is 5 to 12, just like you were talking about. Yeah, second grade.
Because I play Granny.
You're an adult.
You're an adult, though.
Oh,
Feel free to play that as an adult.
okay.
Yeah, you go right ahead.
She kills me all the time.
Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about Freddy when you get done with Freddy. All right, the truth about Grand Theft Auto. You'd be surprised when I give this presentation live. Parents have no idea what their kids are playing. They think it's just a car game. It's just a joyride game. Drugs, alcohol are rampant. The language is horrific.
It's violent. They have prostitutes.
Yeah, prostitutes are actually interactive in this game. And all you got to do is drive your little car to an industrial area, you beep your horn, you pick up a hooker, and they talk to you. They seduce you verbally, and depending on the level you're at in the game, they can talk to you for up to 20 seconds. There is a service menu of you pay with what money you've earned in the game of what you want this prostitute to do to you in this game. You can use your joystick or your mouse or whatever to move around, get a better angle of what your prostitute is doing to you in this game. When you're done, they encourage you to kill your prostitute, to run over her or beat her to death. There are graphic videos and images of...
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding
Come
you.
on, you're kidding.
I'm not kidding you.
And there's not just one.
No, there's 5. Oh, what are we up to?
5 or
5 or
6.
6 now. Yeah.
And I thought it was just a car chase game.
So that's what most parents think. That's what most parents think.
Did you
There
know
are
what it was?
actually tips.
But
Yeah.
did you know all this other stuff?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's bad. I mean, there's tips on gaming sites and YouTube that talk you through how to do this because you earn more life points if you have sex with a prostitute in this game. So it's yeah. But this particular game, remember, was advertised in that little kid game.
Yeah.
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 So that's why I wanted to point that
They used
out.
to advertise it on TV.
It's advertised everywhere.
I mean, I remember
very
when it was
popular.
It's
advertised.
very popular.
But the
But
point
it's-
is that the immature doesn't really necessarily stop children from
No.
playing it.
But I mean, adults shouldn't be playing it.
Yeah. Wow.
It's sick.
It's
Yeah.
I mean,
no,
it's not normal.
I
No.
agree with you. No,
Let's
it's
kill
not.
the
And it's gotten
prostitute. I mean,
worse.
that's
It
not
has gotten
normal.
worse.
Because the
It has
initial
gotten worse.
Grand Theft Auto is quite a different game, the dialogue and all of that, compared to what it has evolved to.
Okay, so what was it like 20 years ago, 15 years ago?
It was still bad.
I mean,
yeah,
it
you're still-
wasn't innocent, but
No.
I don't think
Because-
you had sex with prostitutes.
You picked them up. You picked
There
them
were
up.
definitely
Okay.
Yeah.
girls dressed very.
And they lean in the car and they talk to you and they
yeah.
interact with you. Yeah.
You know, being transparent here, my son is now 43 or 44. So 15 years ago he was, you know,
Well, how do you think I know
close
about
to,
this?
close to like
I
close
mean,
to
I-
30.
Yeah.
But
I
I
know
bought
this.
it for him. He wanted it, like I sent it to him for Christmas.
Yeah.
But you did. But most people. That's why I said that. That's why when I came into this, I told you a lot of this was going to be disturbing. I warned you. But that's my hope is that if we can educate you guys.
I'm calling him. I'm calling him later.
Okay. Yeah.
Now I'm upset.
Yeah. But you know, I just really want to get the educational information out there so that you're aware and you can and if you can pay it forward and pass some of this on to a friend or family member so that you can help a kid, help keep your kids safe. David, and I promise then I'm done.
No.
This is a recent FBI. No, we don't. Yeah. We'll see if this one plays. If not, you can watch the link from home. Nope,
No
no
sound. Come on, what the heck is going on?
Nope.
Just doesn't. Well, can you tell us about it?
I sure can. This was a sting in Sacramento, California that they dubbed Operation Open House. And there were almost 30 people, maybe 30 plus people arrested. The link is right there. If anybody wants to screenshot that link, you can get to it if you just type that link into your search engine or search bar and click it. But basically, the FBI is talking specifically about sextortion, which is what I mentioned earlier. And sextortion is illegal, and it is essentially when someone approaches your child and asks for specific sexually graphic images or video of your child. And this was specifically on sextortion going on in gaming. So it talks about Minecraft and Fortnite. They are seeing victims as young as 7 being sextorted, the FBI and Gary at High Tech Crimes, as young as 7 being sextorted. One of the things I was going to point out to you, had this been able to work, was one of the men that was arrested and charged in federal court in this video. He lured his victim away from the game into the Kick app. And that's how he was able to groom this child to get these horrific images of this child. So if you get a chance to watch this, it's really...
What are they extorting? Are they using the images to get something else?
Oh yeah. What they do then
is... What can a 7 or an 8 or a 10-year-old give them besides, I guess...
nude pictures. Because
so if you don't send me more, I'm going to reveal this.
If you don't send me more, I'm going to kill your dog. If you don't send me more, I know where you live. If you don't send me more, I'm going to send this to your mom, or I'm going to send this to your school friends. If you don't send me more, the threats go on and on and on. And it gets to a point where the child is truly trapped and terrified. Like I said, it's a state jail felony in Texas, but the penalties for child pornography, distribution, and sextortion in Texas, that's a whole other lecture. But if you get a chance to watch it, it's quite good. But there's some warnings from the FBI on it. And the FBI, and I will put this in my resources. Okay, well, we're good. Can I click? I'm sorry, this was such pain. Okay, that was the link.
Oh, you want to go back to the link?
Yeah, this is the link. If you guys want to screenshot the link, anybody out there wants to screenshot it, that's the link to that video. Okay, and I'll get it to you. Practical tips for parents. Again, this one a lot of people don't think of, because Joe, you don't tweet. You're not a Twitter person. You're not the tweeter person.
No, I'm not. I'm not a tweeter. That's true.
I know you're not.
I told you it was tweeter. She just said it.
She's humoring
I'm
you.
making fun of you, Joe. Anyway, as parents, we're all proud of our kids. We all post pictures of our kids, as we should. However, one thing that the predators are really honing into is please don't hashtag your posts of your kids. If you hashtag princess in the pool, hashtag bathing beauty, hashtag handsome baby, they're coming right for your kids if they see those hashtag posts. It's just an easy mark. Discuss your passwords and your access to your accounts with your kids so that they know what you're doing. So be on the same page. Enable your privacy settings and parental controls. Consumer Reports updates this every year, 10 best parental control apps, and these are on top of what are already installed in the games. Monitor your kids' search history. There's all sorts of tutorials out there on how to turn off parental controls. Wiki has an 8 easy step one that does Droid and Apple and Microsoft on how to turn off parental controls for your kids to research. Turning off chat and webcam is important, but right now it's almost impossible because even their schools on webcam. But be vigilant and aware when you're working from home and you're trying to do your work and you're trying to monitor, or when you're going to work because you're essential and you've got to go to work and your kids are at line, you still somehow have to find the energy to be vigilant. Monitor those apps, be aware of those apps. Huge one, don't allow their computers and tablets and stuff alone in the bedroom.
Yeah, when the presentation that I told you about earlier, they said that's the number one thing you can do is that computers need to be in a public place in the home.
Yep.
And same thing with, iPads and phones at night, not overnight in the room, because that gives them alone time to do things that aren't monitored.
Right, exactly.
Predators know that.
Oh yeah, and thank you for seconding that, because that's a huge tip.
Yeah, it says right there, no computers allowed alone.
They said that if you do anything, that's the number one thing you can do that can make a real impact.
Along with being aware and vigilant of what they're doing. And then, again, watch for really drastic changes in their behavior or stress if you're asking what they're doing and they're blowing up and it's not like them. That's huge. Here are some resources. These are all excellent resources for parents, educators, medical staff, community members. The ICAC the Internet Crimes Against Children, they have a safety tab on their website that has excellent resources for parents. Child Rescue Coalition, same thing. There's that cyber tip line that I was mentioning has exploded since the stay-at-home. There again is the human trafficking. And at the bottom, there is that FBI Stop Sextortion website. That's not the video that wouldn't play, but that is a resource page for parents about sextortion. Okay. Any questions? And I'm sorry, that went a little long.
No, you're fine. It was very, very important. It's really disconcerting for me because, of course, I'm in a different place. My children are, my youngest grandchild is now 18, so she's an adult. Although I think that this can certainly be an issue.
Oh, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
When they grew up, I didn't have this as an issue.
Right.
I had other issues that I had to worry about. I mean, this kind of thing did exist. Child pornography existed, just existed, I think, with Polaroids or something like that of some other iteration. But I don't know how parents do it today, especially when we're so connected to the phone. I mean, you're going to tell your child you're out at, and let's say you're a single parent, or even if you are, if you're married, and your husband is sleeping, or your wife is sleeping, and the husband or the wife is in the working at night, or getting called out, or that's just their shift, and you're taking turns, and you have to be connected to reach them, so they need their phone in their room. And of course, it's temptation. Sure. It's there. Let me see what's going on. I just want to do this. In fact, I have a personal story of a family member. I won't disclose what the relationship was, but they were too young to know that you could look through the history, and hadn't figured that out yet. And somebody had gotten their phone and looked on it, and there were all these, pretty, shocking, sites that they were on, and the search that they used to be exposed to it, which was unintentional. But then, of course, it was there. So now I have to see this.
Right, the curiosity.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but they just wanted to see funny cat videos. That's all they wanted to see.
Oh, I can imagine what site that was.
So
yeah.
Right, but it was like, but then it was, oh, that's not, what's that? And then you click the next one to see what else, and it just went on. I mean, it just went on and on and on and on. And it's like, and that was just off of a very innocent.
Right.
That's like whitehouse.com.
Exactly. Same thing. With
Right.
Yeah.
Completely innocent.
Right. No intention to do that. Too young to really even understand it.
When it was it maybe last year that people were, it was making the news that people were inserting inappropriate things into YouTube kids videos, even educational ones that were getting shown at schools. I mean, so predators.
They were hacking them. They were hacking them with inappropriate either nudity or racial.
That's what they did with Zoom.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Or that's what they did with Zoom, and I think they can. I think even they can still even do it.
Well, the point is that predators, if they want to do something, they have the resources or the intelligence, they're gonna find a way. So no matter what we do, we're always chasing after that sort of thing.
Right, but being aware gives you one step up.
Well, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it can be exhausting being aware of all the things and keeping up with all the things, and you've got your own adult things going on, but you really can't trust even the best child to have good decision making all the time.
Well, they don't have. I mean, what's the old saying? Our judgment comes from experience, and our best experiences come from bad judgment, or something like that. Isn't that how that works?
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what kids do. I mean, I'm surprised I'm still alive. That I lived through my childhood. Vicky, my wife, she was stuck on a train track and had to hang off the trestle over a river as the train passed because she got stuck in the middle and couldn't run for it, and her and her friends had to just get out on the truss, the train truss, and let the train pass just, inches from her, and survived it. I mean, I'm sure we all have stories like that where, how did we make it? But we don't want our kids to do that.
Well, and that's also, how did we make it, a decision I did myself, not someone who's trying to come after me,
Right.
So you got that.
Well, that's true too.
Working.
Somebody's not preying upon you.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Right.
technology is a double-edged sword.
It
Our
sure
kids,
is.
I think, are way smarter, way more aware, more I don't know, aware, sort of savvy, streets aware, savvy of what goes on in the world. I mean, there's things that they're exposed to that we weren't exposed to until we were well into adulthood. At least that's the case with me. You might have known it existed or heard about it, but it wasn't so readily, easily accessible.
Right.
So information is, and there's a good and a bad. I'm curious though about what you think, and I'm asking you. This is a personal question, all right? What do you think the punishment should be
For perpetrators?
Yeah, predators. Whether it be attempted or completed or
I know what the
just
laws are. I
online.
know what the laws
I don't
are
care what
inside
the
and
laws
out,
are. I'm
and I
asking you
think they should
personally.
be persecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And
Do you think the law is hard enough? See, I'm
the
gonna
laws in
drag- I'm gonna-
Texas are pretty tough. The
I mean,
laws
how
in
tough?
Texas
Do you think
are pretty
it's enough?
I think it's as much as we can do right now. But I will tell you that Texas is really good about, and what I was listening to you, it kind of tripped something up. People need to be real careful what's on their phone. Because in the state of Texas, you can be charged as an adult at 15. And that includes possession of child pornography.
Well, I have a point
Even
with that.
even if you can be 15, your mate, boy or girl, as the case may be, could also be 15, and they can both be charged.
Well, that's what I was going to talk to you about. I remember hearing a lecture about this when my daughter was young, old, like maybe 7th or 8th grade, just kind of getting into the whole dating thing, and her telling me about children her own age sharing nude pictures.
Right.
And it hadn't even occurred to her when I had to explain it to her that that's child pornography.
pornography.
It doesn't matter that the person took it of themselves.
Right.
It's child pornography.
And then you get tripped up with, if you forward that image, then you're distributing. And that's a whole other charge.
And correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it too, if those images are confiscated, they are stored permanently in like it's not pornography database, that's not the right word, but a government place?
Officers keep a,
But the one I'm referring to, it seems like I saw something on this on, a program that was promoting this kind of thing, and staying aware of your child's activities. Seemed like it was had to be stored because it was a minor in some kind of official place.
the reason they're doing that, and I can't tell you the official name of the place because every law enforcement agency handles things differently. They store them so that they say the child is victimized in New York, but they end up here in Texas.
Right.
Or
No, I
so on and so
understand there was
forth.
a reason why.
And they track them. One thing that Texas does is that they are really, really good about charging per image. So if you've got Mr. 29 million is not going to get out of jail.
Right.
Because
But I think one is as bad as 29 million in my view. I guess the question I was trying to get at, and I'll ask both of you again. I'll just tell you my view first. Is I think it should be a mandatory life without parole in a dungeon.
For
I really
child
don't care.
victimization?
Yeah, I think
For
so.
child vic-
But I
Oh,
think
in
you
an
have to
ideal
be-
world, that'd
but
be
I think you
fabulous.
have to be careful. I think you have to be careful with that. I do think that a 15-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl doing something stupid should not be treated by the law in the same way.
The same way.
I think those are teachable moments for kids, although it could be, of course, it could be a red flag that there's perhaps a problem here that's a different problem, but they're kids. And I think it'll be treated differently. But I think if it's a 20-year-old and up or 19-year-old and up preying on a 12-year-old or younger, and I don't know where that line
Yeah,
needs
where
to
is
be
the line?
drawn.
Because, you know,
But
For
there needs to
anything
be
under 14
somewhere
is a
line.
more aggravated felony.
Well, it
Anything
should
under
be. I don't
14
think
is a more
I think they
aggravated
should
felony.
go to prison forever. I don't think they should be allowed to get out.
I wish
You
we
know.
had the jail space.
You know?
Believe
Well,
me.
we have it. We have it. You
so-
can build a special place for them. There's plenty of land. I don't know if you've seen it or not. And you don't really have to care for them that much.
No, it would be ideal. It absolutely would be
I think
ideal.
that's the problem. That we do not cause sufficient fear amongst people of the consequences of their actions to prevent a percentage of them, not all, because I think some have compulsions that can't be fixed. They're sick. There's something wrong with them, that they're broken. They can't be fixed. But enough that you might not stop them entirely, but you, I think, would certainly
Discourage.
reduce it. Yes.
Yeah.
Because the punishment is so severe. I don't think killing them outright is even worth it, because it's too fast. It's too easy for them.
You want them to suffer.
I do think so.
Yeah.
I think our society has, you know, I mean, I understand we have to treat people humanely. I get all of that. You know, we're in medicine. We shouldn't want to hurt people. But come on, give me a break. That's not a fixable problem. You've crossed a line that you should never be allowed to come back from once you cross that line. And we should have that ingrained in us as a society from birth on. And perhaps it would influence someone. I know they say the death penalty is not a deterrent to murder, and I understand that argument, but I don't think they're equal. I don't think they're the same thing. Murder generally, most of the time, is some kind of impulsive act. This is a very deliberate plan. It takes a lot of time to groom them and nurture them and do all of this kind of stuff. It's a lot more
The
involved.
accessibility is a massive problem because it's so easily accessible and
anonymity.
and
That's another big issue.
free,
And free.
easy access.
Yep.
Anonymously. And again, the younger your kids are exposed to this stuff, the longer term the repercussions if they don't get that intervention,
Yeah,
because
and
they
you're going to impact them, and they're going to be affected for their life. I mean, a
Right.
child that has something like that happen to them, especially if it ends up being real time, but
Right.
whether it is or not, but if it ends up being real life event, is probably going to scar them for life. They're never going to be over that, really. You know, especially if they're really young.
Right.
Because the mind is just not developed enough to be able to process that and not always feel like it was your fault, something wrong with you, you know, or you're dirty and can't ever become clean. I mean, there's a lot of psychology that goes along. I'm not a
Right.
psychologist, but I mean, I've got enough common sense. I know if it was my child, I would do it myself. I would finish him off. That'd be it. I wouldn't care damn the consequences.
You're not the only one of the parents
Yeah.
I've worked with in cases
I
like
couldn't-
this.
I wouldn't be able to- I would not be able
Yeah,
to do
you're
it.
not the only one that feels that
Yeah.
exact same way. I can promise you.
Yeah.
And as a social worker, watching the kiddo that's been victimized, or trying to be the advocate for that kiddo that's been victimized, it's a whole different range of emotions.
I could just imagine. I don't. No, actually,
So-
I can't imagine. To be frank with you, I can't, and I'm glad I don't have to.
Yeah, I am too.
So you know.
But I appreciate
my
y'all
hat's
listening to
off.
all this today, so that we
My
have
hat-
some.
No, I think it's
important
very
information,
important. I think it's very important for our colleagues out there. I really do. I think it's important for our colleagues to recognize that, you know, when you are, you know, you love your kids, you want to trust them, you want to believe in them, you want to do all of that. I'm just going to tell you right now, you know, we have horrible hours at times. We have very inconsistent hours and schedules. We need to be aware of what's going on with our kids, and we can't be their friends.
No.
We have
Well, and
to,
I think
we
it's
have
fair to
be
tell them it's
on
not
top
you
of
that
them.
I don't trust right now. It's everybody else out there that may try to get to
Yeah.
you.
Well,
You know,
yeah. Well,
just-
you know, and you just don't have the judgment yet. You know,
Well, I
they think
mean,
they
you're
know
a kid.
everything, but-
Yeah.
Think about the things you did
You're
when
a
you were a
kid.
kid.
Right.
yeah.
But when you're a kid, you don't think like that. You think you know everything. You know better than your parents. I know. I mean, we all
Oh, yeah.
have the
Absolutely.
same perspective.
Oh, yeah.
It's been something that has existed probably since time immemorial. You know?
I think we've all apologized to our mothers more than once since we've gotten to be adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Probably so. Okay. So, excellent.
Yeah,
Great
very
work.
nice.
That
Thank
was
you for
very,
sharing.
that was
Thank you for
really
listening.
refreshing.
Thank you.
Well, sad, but refreshing that it was something different, something, you know, that we don't talk enough about, and I think it's a topic we
I'm
need
happy
to be
to help. And I'm
aware of.
honored to be here. Thank you for having
very
me.
much. Okay, Miss Tammy. So, in light of all of this, you're going to go to talking about a work-life balance.
Right. A little
And
bit lighter.
Well, it's a
topic.
little bit lighter, but I think it's, you know, now with all of this perspective, I think it's going to be interesting what you might add extemporaneously to what you were going to say to start with. And I think I'll pick up on it.
Okay.
I'm excited.
All right. May I borrow the clicker?
You may. You can
Okay,
actually have it.
so the topic we're going to talk about today is almost humorous, work-life balance with what's going on with us in our communities right now.
Well, I guess it could have been humoral.
Yeah. But I think, generally speaking, we all, especially you know, in the medical field, specifically perfusionists that might be watching, could kind of chuckle, you know, work-life balance. Am I serious about it? And I actually am.
That's a great great slide.
Uh-oh.
We're-
There we go.
There it is.
Hey, so let's talk about it. What is it? It's a buzzword, right? We've all heard it. HR people talk about it. You're recruited to companies. That's one of the things they're often going to tell you now.
Yeah, I lied to you. How many times?
There's lots of different definitions out there, but they all kind of come to the same end results, and that's that you're trying to find an equilibrium between your responsibilities at work and your responsibilities in your personal life. You know, that can be leisure time if that's what's, you know, going on in your personal life. It could be family time. It could be, you know, you time, travel time, whatever. The point is that you're not neglecting your personal life for professional life responsibilities. I thought this was kind of neat. I loved it. In fact, it's, you know, it's a little balance. You got a little life going on, you got a little work going on. And when I hear work-life balance, that's kind of what I think of. But really, we should be thinking of something like this, more of a seesaw. Sometimes more responsibilities are going to be at work, and sometimes more responsibilities are going to be at home. And I think changing your perspective a little bit on that will help you be able to see how you can have, you know, a work-life balance where you're satisfied in both areas of your life. Okay, so let's talk about how the imbalance develops. Well, it develops when, you know, you either have pull from one or the other, either home or from work. Work, it's often increased working hours, whether you have increased work that's being done. For us, you know, caseloads, you have staffing shortages, maybe you have decreased budgets, so you have to take on extra responsibilities, or you have a hiring freeze. You have a change in management personnel. You know, they can change how they manage you. They expect more of you. Or, you know, just changing your job duties. And that can apply to any kind of job, of course. You have increased responsibilities at home. Maybe you have a family, you get married, you have kids, or maybe you have lots of social obligations, you move, or health issues. And one that people don't often think about, at least I didn't until I started researching it, is you have changing life goals. You're different in the beginning of your career versus the middle of your career or approaching retirement. You have different goals, you have different ideas of what that balance might look like. And out of everything that I read from, you know, all of these different business companies that, you know, focus on teaching companies how to offer work-life balance, one of the main things that they talked about was work-life balance is different to everyone. It's a very personal definition. And so figuring out where your work-life balance exists, what you need to make your life work, is the most important thing to do it. Okay, I thought this was kind of appropriate, especially in the medicine. You know, it says the good news is you've been promoted to head of the team.
That's like chief of the department and you're the only
Right.
perfusionist.
Yeah. The not so good news is you are the team. Okay, so why should we care about this? Some people are like, I signed up for this job, especially in medicine. I knew it was going to be demanding. I'm good with it. It's all right. Let's just do it. Let's just get on with it. Well, there's reasons why we should, and the number one reason is burnout. I think we all are familiar with that word. This is actually what the World Health Organization defines burnout to be, and I darkened in red what I thought was the most important. Burnout's, it's going to happen, but you're going to get tired, you're going to get overwhelmed. I mean, your job's going to change, your life is going to change, but it's not successfully managing it that leads to the consequences that can greatly affect your job satisfaction, your home life. It could be divorce, it could be all kinds of things. These are the major symptoms of true burnout, and the point is that you're going to feel these things sometimes, but if you don't successfully manage them, or the situation doesn't rectify itself because you get less work, you get more people, then you can have detrimental results. All right, specifically burnout in medicine. I thought this was really interesting. I couldn't find any articles about burnout as perfusionist, although we know it exists. But I did find a couple interesting articles specifically for physicians that I thought could be very applicable to pretty much anybody in medicine. These were the exact 5 things that they said leads to burnout. Working as a clinician, just in general, because you are a clinician, you are going to have burnout at some point, because you can't just say, I'm not going to do that work today. You're taking care of people. You have responsibilities, whether you want to be, working 50 hours one week. Sometimes you're going to have to. Specific job responsibilities. That could be anything from, the type of institution you work in. Maybe you work in an academic institution and it's extremely busy. Maybe you work in a community hospital and it's not busy, and you can have burnout from not having enough work, if you could believe that.
I believe it.
Yeah, I guess you could believe that right now.
Touche on that.
Having a life. I thought that was kind of funny. Of course, we all have a life, but I guess what they were getting at is wanting to experience things outside of work. Some people are more work focused, and so maybe they don't notice that sort of burnout from the working so many hours and so many responsibilities. But even in those people who are perfectly happy with the amount of workload, they're carrying a lot of stress, and the stress is very detrimental. Leadership skills of your immediate supervisor are a huge impact. They set the example often on how work should be done. If you're in an office setting, if they're always working late and they're always sending you emails at 2 a.m., you feel like that's the work standard and you have to live up to that work standard. In medicine, it could be asking you to stay after, all the time with no giving back to you. That happens a lot as perfusionists, who are mostly salaried employees. I think that can happen, especially when you're working in an institution type situation, staffing shortages and those things. I thought this was interesting too, because even though perfusionists don't necessarily have the same medical training as a doctor, I think the conditioning is the same. You are conditioned that you are not to take time off, that you show up when you're sick, and that all has to do with patient care, because we have a great responsibility in patient care. But they've been getting away from that more and more with physicians. They've got these medical student work week rules and all those sorts of things. But I think as perfusionists, residents too,
fellows,
right?
Yeah.
I think as perfusionists, we've kind of been overlooked in that. Nursing, they have their overtime, they kind of control it that way, but we're kind of in between, in that a lot of times we're salaried employees, so it doesn't cost them any more to keep us there, but the regulations for how much is acceptable work is not really there. And because you're often the only person or only few people in the institution that can do your job, you feel an obligation to show up, an obligation to do the work. Not just pressure maybe from your inappropriate pressure, but pressure from yourself.
Right.
to do a good job because you believe in what you're doing. You want your program to survive. They're not going to hire anyone else, so if you don't do it, your surgeon's not going to have people to do it, and maybe your surgeon won't come there anymore, and then all of a sudden what happens to your program?
Or your colleagues.
Or whatever.
You have to pick up your load.
Yeah.
These were the 4 traits that they've listed in this article that lead to burnout. People who have, you know, a superhero type, they're the only ones who can kind of do their job. Person who's a workaholic just because maybe they don't have an outside life, you know, that's getting back to, they may be perfectly happy with working all those hours, but it's still going to have detrimental effects. Perfectionist, and then lone rangers, you know, who don't want help from anybody. The symptoms: exhaustion, physical, emotional, depersonalization. I think this is the one that I have witnessed the most. You know, you're negative about everything. You're cynical, you have compassion fatigue, you, especially in medicine, you know, that's so dangerous. You don't see your patients as, you know, real human beings. You're just tired. You just show up and you do the work that you can do because you're just exhausted. And doubting a lack of efficacy, you know, doubting that you're doing quality work, you have a lack of purpose. Whatever I do today doesn't matter, it's still going to be here tomorrow, etc. The associated consequences: you give lower quality care, you have a higher rate of medical errors and mistakes, a higher rate of job dissatisfaction, higher rate of alcohol and drug use due to stress, and a higher rate of suicide. I thought this was great. It's talking about analysts, but I thought it was very appropriate. You know, the good news is that we were able to solve the work-life balance problem for our analyst. We just added more work. Okay, so after talking about all of this, is it even possible? Well, it is if you believe it and if you're willing to do the work for it. All the articles that I read said it's your personal responsibility for you to get work-life balance. It's no one else's. Companies are going to offer things that they, you know, tools and promote wellness and the things like that, but really it's up to you. And apparently it is possible because this is taken from the Mayo Clinic College of Medicine, Exploring Health Careers. This is how they describe perfusionist. And I bolded the thing that I thought that was the most important, is that they say we report that we maintain an appropriate work-life balance.
And this is at Mayo?
This is if you were exploring careers just in general for being a cardiovascular perfusion. They tell you all about it, and this is what they describe it. I thought that was interesting. So it's out there. It's being advertised.
I think it's fundamentally wrong, but okay.
Okay. Well, now that we've decided it's possible, how do we get there? Okay, so this was taken not from a medical perspective. It was just taken, generally speaking, from a business perspective. But I think all of these things, and this is where I kind of want some input from you guys, can be applied to people in medicine. First off, you've got to accept that there's no perfect work-life balance. Sometimes it's going to be more work, and sometimes it's going to be more life. And it's not analyzed on a day-to-day or even week-to-week basis. It's over periods of time, just like life. Find a job that you love, and that, you know, we're all in a career, hopefully, that we're staying in, but that could also mean finding the job in this career that you love, that promotes the kind of things about the job that you love. You know, if you like to teach, maybe being in an academic institution is good for you.
Or be a part of PerfWeb.
Or being a part of PerfWeb. Or, you know, maybe you like complex cases and that's what you get joy out of. Go to a place that does that. So it's finding the job that fits you. Making sure to prioritize your health and well-being. You know, I think especially women take this all the time. You know, your kids are sick and your husband's sick or whatever, but you don't have time to be sick yourself.
Right.
The same thing goes for workers. You have to take time to take care of yourself and your well-being. It's important for the kind of job that you're going to do once you're at work anyway. Don't be afraid to unplug. And they were kind of talking about technology here, but I really took it as Don't be afraid to take mental breaks. You know, sometimes we're in the operating room and we have to be on, that you're working then. And then other times you've got a little downtime. It's okay to turn it off, you know, take a 10-minute break if you've got the break, to not do any work and just mentally reset. And I think that's really important, especially, you know, when you're in medicine and you're taking care of someone's life. Take a vacation. Take your PTO when you can. It's important to mentally recharge.
Except during the COVID crisis,
Except during COVID.
when all vacations were canceled.
You can't go.
You can't go anywhere
Can't go.
anyway. Make time for yourself and your loved ones. And I think this was one of the most important things that I didn't really think about. This article talked a lot about, and actually another book that I ended up reading that I'll reference because it's a really entertaining read, and it talks about work-life balance, not from medicine, but just from a reporter for the Washington Post, mom, just trying to do everything that she could to be the mom she's supposed to be, to bake the cupcakes, to write the report, to, you know, investigate reports, publish, all of those kinds of things. But you actually need to make scheduled time when you're planning out your week or your day or whatever, where you're going to make time to do something for yourself and make time for your loved ones. It's not just going to happen if you don't make a plan for it, especially in a busy kind of career like medicine. Set boundaries for your work hours. Now, I know that's kind of hard to do for people who are on call. It was hard to do for that mom. She was a reporter when stories happened. She had to do it. But there are times when you can set boundaries and say, you know, tonight I'm not on call. I'm going to have this time where I don't have my phone right next to me. I'm going to do these other things. And then this is the taking control of your own work-life balance, is setting goals and priorities. Where do you want to be in your work life, and what are the things that are important to you in your home life? And then mapping out how you can make that happen. Okay. So these are some suggestions of how to, you know, change your job environment. It's not always convenient just to run out and get another job. So these are some things that you can do. First off, use the resources within your organization. You know, find out what's out there. If you need more help, how can you get more help? Get involved with team planning and leadership roles. If you don't have people who are willing to help you, or you don't have resources, be a part of the planning committees and the things that can make an impact in your day-to-day work life. Hire temporary staff if needed. You know, if there's a budget for it, don't just think that it's a weakness to say that you can't handle the work, especially if you're a one-man kind of show, two-man kind of show. Work on time management of tasks. There's things to do in busy times and there's things to do in slow times. Busy times, we take care of our patients and we do the day-to-day of what has to be done. But there are slow times in medicine. We've got some slow times now. So there's tasks that can be done then that can make your time when you're busy go much better. I think we've been doing a great job of that, you know.
A great job.
Yeah.
Fantastic job.
Yeah. Organization of duties among the team. Don't be the person that needs to do everything. Have other people do things.
Delegate.
Delegate.
I tell people that are evolving into management roles, if you don't learn to delegate, you will not succeed. It's just plain and simple.
Right. Find what you enjoy about your job. Remember the thing that you got into it, or that you, once you were into it, discovered was your favorite part. There was a study done in physicians that if they could find joy in 20% of their job, that they had job satisfaction. That there was, you know, a lot of other 80% that may not be their favorite part, but 20%, then they found that those physicians were satisfied.
That's interesting.
So it doesn't take much. Yeah. So, you know, you may have a lot of paperwork. Maybe you don't enjoy that, but you really enjoy
20% of their job.
Yes.
Only 20% of their job
That's
brought
all.
them satisfaction.
Right.
That's really low.
But you may not hate the 80%, it just may not be your favorite.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so you're not, okay.
So hone in
misunderstood.
on something that you enjoy about your job, and
Right.
then when you're doing that, really enjoy it.
Right.
Because then that can help you when you're doing the things that you don't enjoy, like staying home. Or make sure you have, that you come to work. We're hired to do work, so when you get to work, be productive and do that work, because in the end, the more productive you are with your time, the easier your job should be. And if all of that doesn't work, explore different work situations. There's flexible work situations, there's different ways to be a perfusionist. You know, there's all different kinds of things you can do. You can become more administrative. You can do lots of different things. But the important thing is that you go ahead and consider different work situations that might be able to make you, in a better situation to enjoy your job. Ways to change your home environment. The number one thing everyone says was to-do list. Because if you are in a busy profession, organizing your personal time will really help you manage it better. Make the most of our varied schedule hours. I think a lot of us do have the opportunity to, work a different kind of, not 9 to 5, 8 to 5 kind of job. So make the most of those hours. Sometimes if you're going to have to work late that evening, but you had your morning free, take advantage of that, appreciate that.
And that's when you pencil in your run that you wanted to do.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
that you were talking about earlier. Yeah.
And accept that it's not okay. I mean, that it is okay that you're not going to make every family event or social function. I think that's especially hard for women sometimes. But no one makes every, who works is going to make everything. It's not just in medicine. And that's okay. Often it's just having a conversation with your kids, reminding them what you do. And I think it's fine. Ask for help if you need it. If you've got those resources, family resources, grandparents, neighbors, friends, husbands, wives. Talk about delegation of responsibilities and duties. You don't have to do it all. Know that situations are going to change, and when they do, there's often growing pains. And try to see if you can just get through this next part. And often, things will resolve themselves. You develop a new, scheduler system, and you end up getting your balance back.
Right.
Find time to de-stress. Talk a little bit more about that actually next week or the week after. We've got a talk coming on about stress, but it's really important, whatever that is, whether it's exercise, whether it's reading, whether it's playing with your kids, it's important to de-stress when you have a very stressful job.
I think it's disasters.
Not that one. There's another one. Stress and nutrition.
You got two coming
Oh
up.
yeah. I remember that one. Yeah.
We'll talk more about that later. And remember why you chose this profession and how it's helped you to achieve your personal life goals. Did you choose this profession because, hopefully that you like taking care of patients, but maybe also that it might give you some, flexibility in your schedule, or maybe it was, a salary that you thought would help you achieve your life. So remember that the job you have also helped you get the life that you have. So. All right. Remember that it's up to us to have these conversations, to figure out what we need for our work-life balance. It's never going to be a 50-50 kind of thing. Sometimes it's going to be a 60-20, and sometimes it's going to be a 95-5, And I just thought this was really appropriate. Live in your moment. Enjoy work when you're at work, and when you're at home, enjoy home.
I like that. Very good. That was really, really good.
Oh, thanks.
I appreciate that.
I loved what you said about the
you wanna open the phone lines?
desensitization. The desensitization part. I really liked what you said, because I think that's important when you're in an on-call profession or you're in a crisis-based profession, that when you feel yourself start desensitizing from what it is that you love to do, that's a huge red flag that you've got to do some reevaluation and some self-care. And it's sometimes it's hard to catch that when you're in the moment.
Right.
Right.
I think now is a really good time to be thinking about this. Most people have had a lot more time to themselves Of course, there's some people who are working even
Yeah,
more,
but you know, this isn't, I think there's a difference. And let me just say, because we somewhat tongue-in-cheek this a little bit, okay? It's not quality time. It's
No.
not quality time. You know, right
Yeah.
now, this whole issue that's going on, yes, there's a lot of time that we're not working, we're not doing cases, people are sheltered in place, you know, so to speak. But this is an aberration. This is not good.
Well, what I meant was now's the perfect time to maybe implement some of these
Right.
things so that when you get back to how your life is,
Yes.
you can have an idea
Right.
of, hey, this has been really working for me. I'm going to just keep
Right.
going with what I was doing, or this wasn't working for me, and how can I adapt, either my behavior or my
Yeah.
schedule and make it work better for me.
Hey, I didn't realize how much conversation I was actually able to have if I just had dinner with my kids 3 nights a week.
Right.
And let's continue that, because moving forward, I didn't realize how important that was, because I didn't have time, or it wasn't a priority when we were so busy. But now that it's working, let's make it a point to keep that up.
Right.
Something like that.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think you both bring up some excellent points, and I think these two talks, both yours and yours, Tracy's and Tammy's, were really almost interconnected because they all have a relevance to this, and of course, we're looking at it from a clinical medical perspective, but you don't know when your call comes in of when the
Right.
victim got found.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so I think there's a lot of professions like that.
Right.
From a sort of a 30,000 foot view, if you don't mind my using that term, there were some things you said, and I want to kind of go over them with you. So, and I'll just give my perspective, and then I'll ask for you guys to sort of give me yours on what I think. I think there are professional responsibilities that are unique to all of our professions, our jobs. Those for us as perfusionists, those for those who manage, severe crisis situations and victims, police officers, or even the person that's up in the security thing watching the tables at the casinos. It doesn't matter what job it is, it doesn't make any difference. The professional responsibility, security, I guess would be the term, security, medicine, victim crisis management, professions, and job responsibilities are not the same. So professional responsibilities and job responsibilities are, in my view, not equal. What say you?
I agree with you 110%, because in my job, it was document, 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 document. And I understand the reason for that. I understand the reason for documenting in a crisis case with a child, why you have to have that for court or whatever. But when paperwork would infringe on my ability to give my best quality care and attention to a child, the paperwork was a professional responsibility. It was a professional requirement, but it made me mad.
It was a job requirement.
It was a job requirement. But it made me mad because I could not often, there was a lot of times when I was juggling 13 different schools by myself, and you've got to do so much paperwork that you're...
And you really should have only been doing 4 or 5.
Right.
I think that's that's kind of where I'm going with this.
Yeah, and I always put the kids first because, but that, and you find it, like you said, you find a way to get it all done. You find yourself feeling like a superhero, but that's when you find yourself kind of desensitizing.
Or making mistakes,
Yeah.
not intentionally,
No.
of course.
Right.
No.
Right.
You're often you're doing your very best with the situation that you have.
What say you?
I think you're absolutely right. I think we do have certain jobs have professional responsibilities that certainly supersede, job responsibilities, as you say. But I also think, I think I know where you're going with this, but I'll just give you my point on this because you're probably going to counter it. I think that in the long run, we can only give our very best for so long. And then at some point, your very best is not your very best anymore. And it's not, and because of the situation where we're dealing with other people's lives, that's also our professional responsibility to recognize that I'm getting in a place where I can't give my best.
It's very well said.
And the patient deserves the very best that can be offered to them.
Yeah, I think so. I think you probably did know where I was going. And I'll sort of go down the rabbit hole if I can, and it comes to making time. I think you had a slide, and I mean several of your slides I really liked. I'll just go over this one, the one where you had the slide of superhero, workaholic, perfectionist, and lone ranger. Okay, so and I'm coming at this from I guess a supervisory or employee.
Right, I could have gone in an entire different route. There was everything from an employer's perspective, but I did it from an individual perspective.
Yes, but I think that's important. I think that's actually even more important. Okay, superheroes, and I have a lot. I mean, look, I'm older. I've run the gamut of how I've conducted my life, and my personal life, my professional life. I missed every Christmas. I missed every birthday. I missed every with my kids growing up, and I regret it. Still to this day, I regret it. Now, there was a plus, believe it or not, in there. Not a worthwhile plus in my view as I've gotten older and looked back at it, but there was a plus. And my exposure to cases and my ability to do my job was enhanced because of that. Okay, and that was the route that I chose. It's just retrospectively, I think it was wrong. But go ahead.
No, I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to come back to that. So
you can interrupt if you want.
Well, I actually thought I had a slide on this, but I don't know if I clicked through it or what. But where did this concept even come from? It's an interesting evolution, I thought. So work-life balance is a thing we all talk about now. Everyone kind of thinks it's geared at millennials and all these different things. Google doing these fun things, but really the research that I read was it's the early beginnings of this began in manufacturing in the late 19th century when women, mothers, and children were working, and so they started limiting hours for the children and for the women because they needed to go home and get their work done for the family. Well, it kind of started there, and then there was the Fair Trade Employment Act. I think it was in 1938. And that started limiting the work week, so 44-hour work week was what was in play. But that didn't affect professionals. Professionals, doctors, those kind of, they were exempt from that kind of thing. It was expected that they were to be on call all the time. Then the next kind of big thing that came about was during baby boomers' time. They went through a lot of uncertainty with, war, and so they were just happy to have a job, and so they worked a lot more hours and were happy to do so. Work-life balance was not anything in their mind. They just wanted to be able to provide for their family. Well, then the children who were being raised by those people, Generation X people.
I'm a boomer.
Yeah, so, and I'm a Generation X person, so they see the parents missing the the birthdays and the Christmases and the long hours and all of those sorts of things. And so it's already forming in their minds that they're not going to do that. They wish dad was around or mom was around or whatever it was. And so that evolution starts happening. Then dual income households arose from that time period from about 30% to now it's up to around 60% are dual income households. Well, that brought about the women's movement, in the 80s with maternity leave and flexible hours and work share and all those sorts of things. Now the Generation Xers are, adults. It's the 90s. It's the early 2000s, and so it really became a thing that they were looking for when they looked for jobs was, how is this going to affect my personal life? Am I still going to be able to, have free time and do that sort of thing? So really, had not a lot to do with millennials. It just kind of, became very popular. And in fact, most of the work-life stuff that is offered to millennials now, ping pong tables and all these sorts of fun things.
Right.
When millennials are surveyed, that's not important to them. In fact, most of them are still looking for the same thing that this has been evolving to, is just being able to, make sure that they have a career that they enjoy, but they also have time for family or personal interest. So I don't think you should, be so hard on yourself. That was the culture then.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've
especially for a man, very much.
My children have
much
forgiven me, so I mean, I'm okay with it. But it's still, I mean, I still do regret it, and I think that it has impacted me now as to how I view others, and how, because I used to have a mentality. I had it where if you were not just 100% dedicated to this job and cared about nothing else, then I thought you were of no value.
You were lacking.
You were lacking
I
or weak.
believed
Yeah,
that.
you were lacking.
Yeah.
And so, it's we learn from our mistakes. I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Because I realized today that was not the best
I think
thing to
that's
do.
great, because that gives you a rare insight and empathy into when people need time from work.
Well, I've learned that
really,
people are different. Okay, and this is, I think, the thing that sometimes it's baffling to me, sometimes it's annoying, sometimes it's just, the way it is. Not every person has the same necessarily needs.
Right.
And every person doesn't have the same needs all at the same time or over the period of time. Their needs
dynamic.
even change. It's all very dynamic. A very great way to put it. And so, you had mentioned it, and it was a very good point. I wrote it down because I've said this many, many times, that you don't judge a job by your last case or your last day or even your last month. Sometimes not even the last year.
Right.
You have to look at the overall big picture, because the grass is not always greener.
No.
But with that said, if a job sucks and it is affecting you that much, you need to leave it.
Right.
You don't stay. If the job is that bad, leave. Your
Or
life,
you at
it's
least
not-
try to use the tools that you have to.
If you can.
And then if you can't, then.
If you can't. If it just sucks and it's never going to get, it just has not gotten better, no matter what your best efforts have been. But I also think with it, because of our unique positions, we have to be somewhat flexible.
Sure.
You can't, and you brought up a very good point, you will miss things. It's going to happen. You can't just throw a big fit when that happens either, because that then looks negatively upon yourself.
Of course.
And some people do. Not everybody is the same.
Right.
Having that, okay, this happened, but how often does this really happen? Let me put this in perspective. No matter how disappointed I may be at this very moment, is this really how it always is? And that's personal.
Well, and that you also have to be realistic. It's just isn't just happening to you.
right.
In medicine or in your kind of on-call kind of, way that you have your job. It happens to everyone. A teacher can't just take off because it's the middle of the school year because something's going on that they want to attend. I mean, it happens in all
I don't know.
fields.
It seems like they can. I don't know about that. I know some teachers. It seems like
It's
they
just
can.
an example.
Okay, that wasn't a good example.
Anyway.
Okay, so superheroes, workaholics, perfectionists, and lone rangers. As an employer, I don't want to hire any of them.
Well, and those people, I think that those traits is what they were trying to say. They can sound negative. You could spin it to sound negative.
spin
You
it
could
any way
also
you want
spin
to.
it to sound like you're really awesome. I mean, I used to think that was the best thing to say in a job interview is, what's your your worst quality. Well, I'm a perfectionist. It sounds so great. I really care about my job. Those are terrible people to have work for you. They don't want anyone else to, do their job.
That's the Lone Rangers.
And because no one else is competent,
Right.
So I
Right.
think
Absolutely.
that those can all be, really, really negative. And I think the point is those are people who also isolate themselves when they're working, thinking that they don't need help from someone else.
Yes, I know, and I understand that it definitely comes to that. But I think there's also, on the flip side, I think anyone in a supervisory role or employment role, employer role, big company, small company, doesn't make any difference, government agency, doesn't matter what it is. There are people and places in those positions at times, and again, stressing at times, not everyone certainly, who will use those people essentially as fodder. They will just, hey, you want to go do all of that? Go ahead and do it, no problem. This is great. I expect everybody to be like this. And that's a failure on the part of supervision to manage that kind of thing, because we all have, when I say you, I mean all of us, have a responsibility to teach people how to treat us.
Yeah.
We set our own boundaries.
Right.
And if you don't set the boundaries, then no one knows where those boundaries are.
Right.
Simultaneous to that, people who are in supervisory roles have to know and recognize their subordinates in a way that maximizes their effectiveness for the jobs that need to be done, while at the same time having some level of recognition that that they have needs, and those needs need to be met at various levels. Now, there's always going to be limits.
Right.
Everybody's got a limit. But I think that both parties, whether it be the supervisor or whether it be the subordinates, it doesn't make any difference. Both parties have a responsibility. And I think one of the biggest problems that I find is a lack of good, clear, transparent, honest discussion, whether you agree or disagree. At the end of the day, being heard and listening,
Respected.
respected makes all the difference in the world. Even if neither party gets all that they want.
Even if you don't get anything that you want, knowing that you were heard
Exactly.
can sometimes be enough depending on the situation.
Absolutely.
So
I'm guilty of that. I'm very guilty of calling, because I'm up. It's 10 o'clock. It's 10:30. I'll call somebody. I've had to teach myself to don't do that. It's not necessary. This can wait. If I call at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, it's going to be because there is a real emergency.
Right.
There is a dumpster fire. David, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying it. There is a dumpster. But you also brought up the other thing, the optimistic part. Believe it or not, and I might not have shown it here today. David, am I a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of guy?
You're all the way to the top.
All the way to the top. Right. I try to stay positive, but again, those are practiced behaviors.
yeah,
Yeah.
Your positiveness is practiced. Your negativity is also practiced.
right.
You know?
Well, and you also, you can change your culture with your behavior. You might not be able to change it to what you want, but if you are constantly negative, it can be effective to make others negative, and then it just makes it worse.
It's self-perpetuating.
contagious.
Yes.
Both
Yeah.
is. Both are.
Yeah, it's contagious.
Positiveness and negativeness.
Right.
They're just contagious behaviors. I agree with you 100%. See, I have so many other questions. Why don't you ask some things? I could go on. I could go on with this conversation for probably another hour. So
I
I'm gonna
loved
let
your presentation. I thought it was very timely.
I loved both of them.
Very.
I thought it was very timely.
And we were the flip side of the coin.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got to got something very serious and something that needs to be said and needs to be heard, people don't want to hear, and something that can almost seem light, but also needs to be heard, because I think we're all looking for satisfaction in our life.
Yes.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think it's important to know that it's not just an employer's responsibility or not just the employee's responsibility. It's a coming together and figuring out what it is that you need, because it's very fluid and very dynamic.
It's very fluid.
Absolutely. Yes,
and
I agree with you
balancing,
100%.
balancing what you don't want to hear and the difficult things that are really out there with, whether it be your job or something going on in your personal life, but balancing the hard to hear with the uplifting.
Yes.
And not letting one or the other consume you, and setting that boundary and finding a way to make a list and schedule time in your life to manage it. It's a challenge.
Well,
it's
if you're
difficult.
burned out at work, think about it. You know, if you're burned out at work and you have and you have a demanding job, and you're burned out at work, and you just feel deflated, and you go home, how likely are you in that circumstance versus you have, pretty good job satisfaction. You love your profession, you love your career. Job's good, it could be better, but it's, not bad, it's good. You feel valued, you feel good about what you've done and accomplished and so forth, and then you go home. So take those two people and contrast that. They have two teenagers, an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old, and who's going to be more aware in that circumstance of why are you taking your iPad into the bedroom?
Right.
What did you do today?
Well, and this was in that book. It's escaping me the name of it. The author is Bridget Schulte, and it's called Overwhelmed, Work, Love, Play. Who has time?
Yes.
It's a great read. She's very entertaining, but she talked about, she was making cupcakes at 2 a.m. and she was meeting this deadline, and she's in the teacher's back room at her kid's school when she's supposed to be watching a play, trying to do an interview for, she said, I was always doing, 10 things at once, but doing none of them well. I mean, she was doing well enough at work. She was a good mom. I mean,
she was surviving, and she was functioning, but it wasn't.
And what was kind of interesting, that I didn't even know this existed, but they were trying to figure out how she got involved in a time study. Was they were trying to figure out why readership of their newspaper was down with women, because women, newspaper subscribers, had always been one of their highest demographics. And so they went out and interviewed people or sent surveys or whatever, and to find out. And the women were saying, I can't read. I have to do this.
Have time.
I have homework, and I have this and this and this. And so she started, she was tasked with researching, if that's a trend, if that's this. So she found this man that they call Father Time, who had been studying how people spend their days, just ordinary people. He's been cataloging it over his whole career. And so she went to talk to him about it, and he said, if I'm quoting it correctly, that he didn't believe the women didn't have time. They have 30 leisure hours a week. He doesn't care if they work, they're whatever, they have 30 leisure hours a week. He's been studying time, and she said, I don't have 30 hours a week. Sometimes, I can...
Maybe to sleep.
Right.
Maybe.
And so he had her do a time study for a year. She had to write down every single minute that she did. And then she had to go meet with him afterwards, and he looks at it and he shows her, you don't have to give up anything. It's how you organize your time. And how many times are you doing something that doesn't need to be done at that particular time, that could have been done at another time, and you could have been more functional and, in the moment of what you're doing at this time. It's really interesting, and she's an entertaining writer, and she made it very humorous.
Well, since it was Father Time, I'm assuming it's correct. All right. Tracy, Tammy,
You're on a roll
I want to
today.
thank I want to thank both of you for being here and giving these excellent presentations. Tomorrow, we're going to hear from Tammy again. Disasters, your family or your patients, and then me, and you're going to find out tomorrow, definitively, is a sole perfusion practice safe for the patients? You're the only perfusionist within 200 miles. Is it safe or not? You're going to find out tomorrow, and you're going to find out when disaster strikes, do you run to the hospital or do you run for the hills?
With your family.
With your family, yeah. Well, it depends whether you like them. You know, sometimes not all of the
Depends on the
family has
day,
to go.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Depends
not
on the
all
day.
the family
Yeah.
has to go. You know, the in-laws, they'll be fine. Get them some floaties.
So crazy.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow at same time, same station. Adios.
Mixed cannulae, expanding performance standards. High performance cannulae for direct and femoral cannulation in minimally invasive cardiac surgery. LivaNova's complete range of mixed dedicated products allow easy and reproducible procedures. The portfolio includes the sutureless aortic valve Perfusion, Memo 4D for mitral valve repair, the HeartLink system for assisting the perfusionist in applying goal-directed perfusion therapy, and a broad choice of high-performance dedicated cannulae. LivaNova's range of cannulae suit every cannulation technique for minimally invasive cardiac surgery. Venous and arterial femoral cannulation can be performed using the WRAP venous cannula and the EasyFlow Duo. For arterial direct and venous femoral cannulation, the EasyFlow aortic cannula and the WRAP are available. For venous femoral access, the LivaNova WRAP cannula features a dual-stage configuration for optimal drainage of the inferior and superior vena cava without interfering with the right atrium. The high-flow dynamics of WRAP improves the capability of drainage with a low pressure drop. An optional Sellinger dilator kit is available to perform percutaneous insertion. The LivaNova EasyFlow Duo cannula is designed for a safe and smooth femoral arterial cannulation. Its conical dispersion tip design allows a more gentle flow in the femoral artery, and its red cap avoids blood backflow during obturator removal. A dilator kit for percutaneous insertion is also included with the cannula. EasyFlow cannulae are designed for safe, reproducible, direct aortic cannulation and include a malleable stylet to aid cannulation insertion, facilitating bloodless introduction into the aortic arch, as well as a special conical dispersion tip for a more gentle flow in the vessel to reduce shear stress.
The point-of-care program at Huntsville Hospital is approaching its 20-year anniversary. As we began to grow as a hospital and provide more complex services to our community, the need for point-of-care testing became very clear in our organization. Many of our departments consider the EPOT device to be crucial to their ability to quickly move their patients from entry to the hospital to procedural room. It helps them monitor the patient's status during their procedures and post-procedure, so it's very integrated into our entire continuum of patient care. If you have any patient population where blood management is crucial, then a point-of-care device is very useful in those types of settings. It can provide a quick result on a very small amount of blood, and that is really important in some of our patient population.
We are starting a new process where we're going to screen our patients on the floor for sepsis. The patient can look and actually feel okay. They will show us signs and symptoms of sepsis. So what we do when they show these signs, we get a lactate level.
Lactic acid is a product of the sepsis cascade. So with sepsis, The inflammatory light switch goes on, the cascade starts churning, and unfortunately, once it starts going, we have to stop it. It will not stop on its own. The faster the lab draw, the faster the lab results, the faster you can act on it.
The process in the lab is what the process is. It just takes a certain amount of time for the instruments to run those tests.
I mean, we're talking 30 minutes even on a stat because that's the process. That's just how long it takes. There's not really anything you can do about that. For every hour you wait to give an antibiotic, the mortality for that patient increases 8%. So now that we have the handheld device, the nurse can get those results within a few minutes, and we know how to treat that patient. If a patient is going into septic shock, we do not have minutes to spare. We have got to get it done quickly. So when you get the little beep from the epoch that says your results are in, you go with it. You don't even think twice about it. You're like, this is good. This is what I'm going to do for this patient. The next steps are clear.
I think our mortality on the initial floors dropped by almost 50% in the first 3 to 6 months. At this point, we're about hospital-wide. I think we'll be hospital-wide another 2 to 4 months. So this has become a huge program within our system.
Without the epoch device, it would really be hard for us to get everything done in the timely manner. So it's really helped us to get our program going.
I mean, whether you're a surgeon, whether you're a medicine doctor, whether you're a dermatologist, you want to be able to do things in a timely fashion so that you can be most effective.
This really makes a difference in patient outcomes.
Like all perfusion professionals today, we are busy and frequently short-staffed. Does taking time off for a conference create a burden for your teammates? Has reimbursement for your continuing education dropped? Have you priced the cost of going to a meeting lately? Registration fees, airfare, transportation and parking, hotel, and meals out? This totals up to having an out-of-pocket expense of over $2,500. And then you hope the content is good. Perfusion Education has heard your concerns. They have a simple and seamless system that works on any platform, computer, tablet, or even your phone. You can chat during the program or even phone in and be live on the air. The content, second to none. Perfusion Education is by perfusionists and for perfusionists. Create a free account and check us out today.